when President Trump began speaking, you all heard it with us at home. He said it was an extremely productive meeting. Many points agreed to, some points left. And I have the actual quote here because I think this is the most clarity we have from President Trump. We had an extremely productive meeting and many points were agreed to. There are just a few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I guess my notes were pretty close to what the actual quote was. Martha Raddatz, our Chief Global Affairs anchor, is on the ground in Anchorage. And Martha, we knew this would be high stakes. President Trump used those words going into this summit. And as of now, there is not much clarity as to what this agreement that Vladimir Putin noted is. And certainly they did not use the word ceasefire.
They did not use that word at all, and that's what President Trump said. Unless he had a ceasefire at the end of these meetings, there would be severe consequences. It certainly doesn't sound like anything like that is going to happen. But as Mary said, it was completely vague. I think all of us were sitting there waiting for Donald Trump to announce just what an agreement was, if there was an agreement, and we got nothing. In my notes, David, I have...
And, people that study war understand that. But I am impressed by the cordiality. I didn't see much disagreement being voiced. I saw them talking about great progress. The president said extremely productive. I think from the tone, I'm not surprised that they didn't give us a lot of detail because there are still some outstanding issues. It would be premature to talk about a ceasefire coming out of this.
Hey, but the other thing, too, that was fascinating, Rick, is that you know as well as anybody that President Trump loves to take questions from the media. Might not love the media, but he loves to entertain their questions and usually takes a lot of questions. We heard no questions asked. They did not call on any reporters on the Russian side, on the American side, from the remainder of the international media. So it was just President Putin can't
make the argument that this was the only time today that they were alone.
Yeah, to be a fly on the wall in that car, I mean, who knows what sort of discussions happened in there. But I'm immediately reminded of Putin's visit to North Korea, where he drove the car with Kim Jong-un. And he seems to be quite photogenic when it comes to getting into cars with fellow foreign leaders. It was an interesting photo opportunity, and I think it displayed some sense of, I don't know.
John, it also backs up President Trump's claim that this never would have happened, that the mainstream media, those on the left, always made fun of, right? They always made fun of President Trump for saying this. That's right. Vladimir Putin backs him up. My assessment is, Brian Glenn, is you'll hear the MSNBC say, oh, look, this was a plot between Putin and Trump, and they're yucking it up together, and they're so jovial. I actually think these two do like each other. I saw from the statement today, I think there is respect. I don't think things went south in the meeting. But, Brian, I'd ask you, you were in the room with them. What was your takeaway for the dynamics between the two?
Well, one of my biggest takeaway prior to this conference was don't believe what you hear sources say from the Kremlin that they were going to meet for 6 to 7 hours. That was initially pushed out hours ago. This thing lasted 6 to 7 minutes, it seems like. But I'm not surprised that he didn't take questions, because I think you don't want to get ahead of yourself, because you know the American media is going to ask the questions that they have. They ask the questions every day.
President Trump's energy.
Beautiful lady.
If you want to do nonsense in district based on not off the census, which we know has been incorrect in the past, but also mostly incorrect in the not favoring people. Incorrect in that it overcounts people who are not of color and undercounts people of color, mostly because people of color didn't participate during the pandemic because they just didn't have time or resources and didn't want to. Wait, it undercounts people of color. What now? In 2020, people are
Putin shared a hope to end the conflict, but tonight, many questions remain, with no ceasefire or details announced.
There were many, many points that we agreed on. Most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal.
No deal until there's a deal. The much anticipated meeting began today right here with President Trump on the tarmac, welcoming Vladimir Putin. The first time he's been here on U.S. soil in nearly 10 years, rolling out the red carpet.
There you go.
Putin greeted with
There you go.
bombers and fighter jets, ending his time in global exile since he invaded Ukraine 3.5 years ago. Millions of people, however, in Ukraine closely watching this moment.
Got it.
Russia taking over 1/5 of Ukraine's territory.